Hello, all you beautiful people. How you guys doing? So for today's video, we're going to be talking about the Genshin Impact drama slash boycott slash petition that's going on right now. Talk about every facet about it. Starting up a conversation. Let's just talk about it. So what's the issue? What's going on? A lot of people, after the Natlan trailer dropped, are complaining about the fact that not many characters are darker shades. Right? Natlan is a region is based off of things like Aztec, maybe some Spanish, I'm not sure, some African as well, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Hawaiian as well, I believe. I'm not sure. So it's based on all these different cultures, but the characters represented in there are not, they not look like the people who would be living there. They're not as darker tan, darker skin tone, not enough melanin, things like that. People are mentioning, right? And this rings true back when Sumeru was coming out. The same conversation was happening, and I actually made a video back then talking about the Sumeru one because that rung true a little bit more personally for me. Because Sumeru's attributes included Indian culture, which, for people who don't know, I am Indian. So that rung true very, that very much related to me. So I talked about that as well. So I thought it would be fitting if I talked about this as well. Even though, these cultures, I'm not part of any of these cultures. I'm not very knowledgeable about any of these cultures. So please, if I say something wrong, if I say something disrespectful, please do call me out on it. Correct me in the comments, anything like that. Please, please, please. I think, it's these are all aspects of how all I want is to have a conversation to talk about this because I think it is an important topic to talk about. So that's the first thing, right? People saw these Natlan characters and said not too many of them are darker skin. Like there's a slight hinge, right? There's a slight tinge of on some of the characters. They're a little bit darker. Like Shilonen here is like a little bit darker. We're not like super duper dark, right? But that's the first thing. The second thing that people are talking about is in regards to this character, Ororon. Right, the character Ororon. He was in the trailer for a little tiny bit. Where is he? He was kind of standing next to Cappuccino. There he is. A little bit. He's over here chilling in the corner. So he was standing next to Cappuccino. The big conversation, and the conversation, it doesn't stem from this, but I found this tweet was like very popular. This is Valeria Rodriguez, the voice actor for Sucrose, actually. Saying, Ororon is the supreme Yoruba deity. You can find out with a quick Google search. It is unforgivable. Look at what a sick job Smite did with their own interpretation. It's not that hard. Pretty much, talking about, we can't stay quiet when people use different cultures and things like that to represent characters. And theoretically, this character is based off this deity, for example. And this is like Smite's interpretation of the character right here. And then this is would be Genshin's interpretation if it is based on that character. We'll talk about that more when I, break this down. I will say, in general, let me put it at the start here, because some people just watch the start, is I agree. When it comes to representing cultures, people are the culture as well. So if you're going to represent the culture, represent the people of that culture as well. And then finally, the most recent thing that's happening is people are doing a boycott, or at least this image came out, and it's a very popular tweet as well. I got a boycott Hoyoverse, got the do's and the don'ts here. You guys can read it. We'll break it down in a bit. So let us begin with the first point, which is that Natlan doesn't have many darker skinned characters. Let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about it. Let's try to approach this from different angles, right? Let's try to approach this from different angles and try to get an understanding here. So, in general, I do agree. My stance has always been I think including more darker skinned characters in Genshin would be great. I think it would be a fantastic idea. I think it would be great for the game. I think a lot of people will be super hyped and super excited about it. I think it'd be fantastic. I think it'd be great, and I would love to see it. At the same time, though, if it doesn't happen, for me, it's not the end of the world. For me, it does not ruin the game. For me, I do not hate the game if they don't include it. I would like them to, but for me, I've always loved Genshin even before Sumeru came out, even before Indian culture was represented. There's many things I enjoy and I like about Genshin, and playable characters not having darker skin, while I'm just like, that kind of sucks, it doesn't ruin things for me. That's always that's always been my stance, pretty much. That's always been my stance. At the same time, I will say people are valid. If people do have the opinion that Genshin needs more dark-skinned characters, if people do have the opinion that, Genshin needs to include more, Genshin has to include more, valid. 100, 110% people are valid for speaking that. And I have always believed in the idea that if you are going to use a culture, the people are the culture. Culture doesn't just spawn out of nowhere, right? Buildings, food, architecture, art, design. Who makes them? The people make them. If you're going to take from a culture, if you're going to use things from a culture, you got to use the people too, because the people are part of the culture. The people made the culture, right? That's 100%, that part's 100% true. The people made the culture. So I think it's only appropriate to include people who would have created that culture, right? Or a representation of them, right? It makes sense to me. At the same time, though, I do acknowledge that this is Hoyo versus Game, right? These are not actual regions, right? Sumeru isn't actually India. Maybe it has attributes of Indian culture in there, but this is Tevat. This is Genshin. This is their own world and their own game that they made. At the end of the day, if these are the choices and these are the decisions that they decided to do for whatever reason. If for an artistic reason, I don't know, maybe for a business reason as well, they have the right to do that. They're not like breaking any laws or anything like that. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying with this. But essentially, it's just like at the end of the day, this is Hoyo versus Game. This is Hoyo versus world. This isn't the real world. This is a fantasy world that they made that has influences from different parts of reality, but it in itself is not a reality. It's a fantasy. Those are the things I want to talk about for that. So let's move on to the next point, which is talking about Ororon. And the first thing I want to bring up is that this is very different from the previous point. The previous point being, I think, more dark skin representation would be good, but ultimately, this is Hoyo versus World. This is very different. If it is indeed true that this character is the representation of this deity, I do think representing them this way is so stupid and so messed up and is not, that's not good. That is not good at all. Because it's very different, right? It's very different if you're talking about in a wide scope of just like, you gotta include more dark skin character versus just like, oh, this is the representation, of this character, of this deity. I think in general, if you're gonna represent a deity, represent the deity as the deity, right? For example, the Persona series. Whenever the Persona series talks about a deity, a lot of the time it's the deity themselves, right? When they're representing that deity, they're showing their own interpretation or their own design of that deity, but it still is that deity. It's not a separate character. I think turning representing a deity as a separate character is not smart. It's never smart. Never. I don't think you should ever do that personally. Like that's just how I feel in general about that. The reason I say if indeed is because I want to bring this another point to the table, right? I think it's good to get multiple points, right? You always got to get multiple points when it comes to this. So if you notice in the English here, official, this is the official Genshin posted this. His name is Ororon. And the deity mentioned here is Ororon. And also, please forgive me if I'm saying any of these names wrong. I don't know anything about Nigerian religion or culture or Yoruba religion or culture. So please do correct me if I'm wrong. Please do correct me if I speak out of turn, anything like that. Please, this is all for the conversation. It's all to talk about it. But I don't want to disrespect anybody. I do not want to disrespect anybody, especially when it comes to people's culture, religion. So, my question that I ask is this indeed based off the deity? Is this indeed based off the deity? People are thinking it is indeed based on the deity, and I went to the wiki here to kind of explain that a little bit more. Based on the transcription of his name in the Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, Ororon is likely named after Ororon, the supreme deity of the Yoruba religion. And you can see kind of the breakdown of the languages here. In Korean, we have the L's here, Ororon. In the Chinese as well, it's Olulan. Let me not pronounce these things, but you can see the L, the letter L, right? The Japanese version doesn't have it, and the English version doesn't have it, the letter L as well. They have the letter R. I think it might be missing the R. It may potentially be missing the R in the yeah. My words are flustered. It may be potentially missing the L in the Japanese version because I don't think the Japanese alphabet has an L sound. Please do correct me if I'm wrong there. But I do want to focus on the English one just because that's what delivered to me. So I'm just asking the question. I'm not saying this is a definitive point either way. I am just asking the question: is he indeed based off the deity? I think if he is indeed based on the deity, and this is the representation of this deity from the Yoruba culture, then that's super messed up. This is super messed up. You never should have done this. This is stupid. This is idiotic. Don't represent a deity this way. I don't think that's just smart at all. If it's not based on the deity and this is just a name, but the other translations weren't correct, then correct the other translations. And I think if it's just this, and I think if this is just the name, then that's just a name at the end of the day. That's kind of how I feel, or at least I just want to bring up that point that if this is just a name, it's Ororon and not in there, and they are not. If Ororon, I'm getting mixed up. If Ororon, if Ororon is not based off of Oloron, I think it's fine because then it's just a name. If they are indeed based off the deity Oloron, that is super messed up. That's kind of my stance. But I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure because there is the different spelling. And I think they should clarify that, right? I think they should clarify that. And finally, I want to talk about this boycott here. It says boycott Hoyoverse. You got some do's and you got some don'ts. A lot of these are fair. Review bombing. I can't super agree with review bombing, especially when other things get caught in the crossfire, like Google Classroom that one time. But I understand. I sympathize for it, right? I understand. It's just like when you want your voice to be heard, sometimes you got to do these things, right? You got to do some dirty things to get your voice to be heard. If you're gonna, because people are saying to review bomb Genshin, review bomb Star Rail, review bomb Zenzonelis, even if Star Rail and Zenzonelis aren't included in this, it's like, okay, I understand. You gotta let your voice be heard. It's like, okay, that's fair. Like and retweet, share the post from us, share the post, spread the word, tell a friend, etc. Respond to surveys. That's a really good one. Customer support, petition, local politicians. I don't know what that's gonna do. I don't really know if that's gonna do anything. I don't know if Hoyoverse cares about your local politicians, but okay. Post on official Hoyoverse accounts. Mute block trolls. Yeah, fair. Don't make any additional purchases, participate in giveaways, participate in hard work, economic flow, battle pass, principal, etc. Harass or threaten voice actors, of course. Don't harass or threaten anybody. Let me double down on that too. Do not harass or threaten anybody in these comments if you guys are talking about the topic. Please. I ask and I beg. Please keep it civil. Let's keep it to the conversation. We can go back and forth and argue, but don't disrespect anybody, right? Respect, I think, keeping that is good. Interact with racists, speak over people who are indigenous or affected as well. That's a good point. I feel like I haven't seen too many people who are of the Yoruba religion or are of Nigerian culture really speak about this. People who are indeed Nigerian. Maybe I just missed it. I'm not too engrossed in the conversation. I'm mostly seeing the big posts, right? I'm mostly seeing the big posts about that. But that's super duper true. I do very much agree with that. We should always be listening to the people, especially who are indeed being represented, who have lived their life, experiencing this religion, because they're going to be the experts, right? They're going to be the experts. One thing I will say here when it comes to this boycott is I noticed that the don'ts don't include not playing Hoyoverse games. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, if you guys are gonna do this boycott thing, that's gotta be included. I noticed that it's very much a don't buy, but don't play is not included here. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, if you guys are playing Hoyoverse games, it's not a good look. If you can't boycott something and indulge in it as well. That's just the harsh reality. That's just the harsh reality of a boycott, y'all. You can't indulge and boycott at the same time, because then your boycott's not going to be taken seriously because you're still indulging. It doesn't matter that you're not participating in the economic flow, not buying battle pass, not buying welcome, and things like that. That may have an effect, but if you're still playing anyway, you are sending the message that it's fine, right? That's just a bit of reality for you. And speaking of reality, when it comes to the boycott, let me be a little bit harsh. And I don't want to be harsh to be like, nothing's gonna change. It's no point in like speaking up or complaining. Nah, dude. If you want to voice your voice, if you want to speak up, please do speak up. Let your voice be heard. Let your opinion be be heard. You are valid for your opinion. You are valid for wanting your own culture to be represented. If they're going to be using other aspects of your culture but not the people, you are valid. Speak your voice. Speak. But we have to understand the facts and the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that Genshin is one of the most popular games in the world right now. That's the reality of the situation. And I am saying that because, right, we have gone through this with Sumeru. I made that video back in the day. People complained in the same way back when Sumeru happened. And you know what? They moved on. People moved on. That's the reality. Is that the cold truth? Yeah. But the cold truth is the cold truth. People moved on and went about their lives because at the end of the day, the product is good. Say what people will about Genshin. Say what people will about Hoyoverse. People indulge in the product. People enjoy the product. The product being given is good and people enjoy it. And we can't ignore that. You know, if you're going to boycott, you need to acknowledge that. You really need to acknowledge that. Because that's the level of severity here, you know? If people don't do something, you know, with big impact, and I'm making that point because I'm noticing it doesn't say don't play any Hoyoverse games. It's very simple to put the sentence don't play. I don't see the word play at all here in the don'ts. It does not say don't play. Because it's the truth of the matter is that people enjoy the product, and that's why Hoyoverse is fine doing this because they have been doing this and are number one. They're still number one. Maybe Genshin itself is not always the number one game, but Hoyoverse in general is a huge entity. They've surpassed so many other series. I think they just recently passed the entirety of the Zelda franchise. Being as new as they are huge. They are huge and they are popular, and people will always be enjoying these products. And so I just wanted to present that to the table. Not to be like, oh, this is a hopeless situation, don't try to fight, don't try to speak your voice, don't try to do anything like that. I'm saying that because you gotta be serious. If you're gonna boycott, you gotta be serious. And here's another dose of reality. Here's a little bit another dose of reality. We're just being real today, right? The thing that would suck a lot, right? If people are doing like, yo, boycott, and like, you know, Genshin needs to do this, they need to do this, they need to do this. And in the next breath, when Natlan comes out, they're just like, yo, look at my polls that I got for Natlan. Or like, oh my goodness, the Natlan story is so crazy, whoa, crazy reaction, you know? Like, if you see your streamers talking about this, if you see your content creators talking about this, being like, you know, push the boycott, and then in the second breath, when a new thing happens in Genshin, where like a new character is OP, or like the next polling, can I pull 300 polls for the Pyro Archon, or things like that. I hope you understand what I'm saying is that, did you even really believe in the boycott to begin with? If you're gonna go in hard. If you're gonna go in dedicated. Because if you ain't gonna go in dedicated, nothing's gonna change. That's the reality. That is the reality of the situation. If you're gonna be serious, because again, Genshin is one of the biggest games right now. Genshin is one of the biggest games right now, and people enjoy it. People love it. People love to play it. People love to talk about it. People love to pull the characters. People love to play, etc., etc. Like, you know, that's the reality of the situation, and that's what's gonna happen. And I would hate it for it to be like people put all this energy and stuff into a protest to be like, you know, try to uplift the cultures being represented or try to make some change happen. But when it's just like, oh, well, this is not the popular topic anymore, so I'm not gonna care anymore. And it's like, bro, you know, if you're gonna be all gung ho with the protest, and then you're gonna be all like, oh well, new content's out now, so I'm gonna ignore the protest because new content's out now, I can play the new content. Then it's just like, I'm just saying to look out for that stuff. You know, because hey, let's be real, right? Let's be really real. There are some content creators, there are plenty of content creators, and there are plenty of people who are tweeting right now who will do that. Who will be like, yo, let's protest, and then when the actual content, when the actual mommy Archon comes out, right, then they're just gonna be like, yo, let's pull. It is what it is. One more thing I want to mention here. I should have talked about this when it came to the Ororon stuff / the Ororon stuff, is I did find a post on Reddit recently. Only a couple hours ago, 3 hours ago. It says, concerning the Yoruba issue and the blatant misinformation, please hear me first. I will run through this real quick because, again, I'm all about perspectives, right? I'm all about multiple perspectives, and it's good to get different multiple perspectives. You guys can read this if at your discretion. I will link it in the description below if you guys want to read this for yourselves. But it pretty much says, I am Nigerian, I'm Yoruba. Everyone that at least says in Nigeria knows the information from Igos to Hausa to Calabar. It is shared in the house. Again, please forgive me if I'm pronouncing things wrong. I saw the review bombing on Zen Zone is 0, and I just had at least to say something before our true culture dies under the misinformation plaguing the internet. Oloran, Olodumare, all refers to the Christian God Jehovah, Yeshua. Let me teach you all Yoruba. Oloran means God, just God. Oloran, Olodumare means God Almighty. Oloran means my God. All these statements are used in the churches here in Nigeria. There are countless songs that uses the terms Oloran and Olodumare as titles or exonerations for God Almighty, the Christian God. Remember Onyokupan, the black guy from Attack on Titan. Yeah, Onyokupan is also God in Tiwi, which is, I believe, from Ghana. Well, they put it right here, from Ghana. The Christian God. Now you may ask, what is that sky god? Me, myself, I don't know where y'all got that from. I think they're referring to maybe this picture. Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not 100%. Again, don't quote me. I don't have the information. I'm just, putting all the perspectives. We do have the god of iron, Ogun, and the god of thunder, Shango. I'm surprised to be one to type this. It is really common knowledge. Please spread this message. God bless you all. Or Ororon, my day, say safe, y'all. I will. There you go. There's another point. More information is always good, right? I think at the end of the day, more information is always good. This just popped out recently, so I thought I would talk about it. But there you go. There you go. That is the current climate of kind of what's going on right now. Again, a summary at the end. Of what's happening and how I feel about it. People are complaining that the characters, theoretically the 5-star characters, which we think these characters are, none of them are very dark skinned, while representing cultures which include people who are very dark skinned, very similarly to what happened in Sumeru. I do agree with this point because I do think Genshin can have a lot more dark-skinned characters, and I think it would be very positive for them. I think it would be great for them, and I would be really happy if they did include them. But for me personally, it's not the end of the world. But, you guys are own opinions. You guys are free to have your own opinions regarding that. The second point here is regards to this character. I personally believe if this character named Ororon here, at least in the English advertisement, if their name is indeed just Ororon and they are not referencing the deity Oloron, then I think it's just a name at the end of the day. But if this is indeed a representation of the deity Oloron, or a direct reference to them, the deity Oloron, I think this is extremely messed up. I think they should have never done this. I think that's extremely stupid if that is indeed the case, but I'm not 100% sure if that is indeed the case. And then here's another resource in regards to Oloron from somebody who claims to be Nigerian. Again, I don't know 100%, but this person says Oloron indeed just means God, like the Christian God, like how Jehovah also just means God. They're saying that Oloron themselves is just another way to say God, but still meaning the Christian God. There's another point to consider, to think about, to talk about. And finally, we mentioned about the boycott, which me personally, I don't think is going to go far because it doesn't mention not playing the game. If you're gonna boycott something, some media, some whatever it is, like a game, like a movie or whatever, you cannot indulge. If you are going to boycott something, you cannot indulge. The fact that this does not include in the don't section not playing the game, it says economic flow. Like, I guess playing the game includes economic, but it doesn't say don't play it doesn't include playing any Hoyoverse game, which should be the most important thing when it comes to a process like this. So personally, I don't think this protest is going to work because people are not committed. People are not committed to this protest, so I don't think it's going to work. All right, those are my thoughts on it. Tell me you guys' thoughts in the comments. I'm very curious what you guys have to say about this. What do you think about Natlan? What do you think about the representation of the people in Natlan? Let your voices be heard. Speak, and speak your piece. Let's have a good, healthy conversation. And yeah, let us see what happens. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and peace out.